Good afternoon. So, how are you doing? How are you all? Hmm? So, core people, core, super core. Hmm? How are you? Good. So, beard is growing lengthy. So, what should I talk about? How many tests you have written so far? Are you writing tests even now? Regularly, you are writing. Okay. So, all the mains test. I think 77 tests are over for you. Core batch. Okay. And yeah, around 19 essay tests, 17 ethics tests. So, of course, 19 essay test it means around 40 essays, around 38 essays you have written, which is a really big number, right? So, I am sure you are feeling confident in essay and ethics, especially these two papers. What about ethics? So, are you able to complete the paper in 3 hours? Huh? Okay. And I think we started increasing the length of case studies also, right, recently. So, you were able to manage them? Okay. Anyway, like you will have more time after prelims, and as I keep saying, as I've told you so many times before also, you are always in a better position to take off immediately after prelims. That you will actually realize, and you will be very happy and thankful after prelims that you are part of this core batch, because that saves you lots of time, to focus more on improvisation rather than trying to work on the mechanics like improving speed and other things. You will have more time to enrich your answers, improvise the way you write, presentation and other things. So that will be a big advantage. Now coming back to prelims, now everything makes sense only if you clear prelims. So I think 3 months ago when we had discussion, I asked you a question like, so what are your prelim scores? Some of you said 70, 80, and those who said 70, 80, what is the status now? How much you are getting now? 90, 90 to 100? Very good. What about girls? I remember you people scoring 100 plus in all the prelims marks. Okay. What about step up marks? What was your score? Step up mark 94. Very good. 90 plus. That is very good. So without copying, no? So what about yours? 85. Why still stuck at 80s? What about you? 90 plus. Very good. What about you? 90 plus. Anybody 100 plus consistently? What about Rishabh, yours? You're not giving. So you're not giving 23 attempt. Huh? Why? Okay. So what about you? Yours? 85 around. So not going below 80, right? Right. That is very good. So I think by end of March, it should be worst case minimum 90. And April consistently in whatever test you are giving, it should be 100 plus. And most of the times it ideally, like going by previous batch experience, most of the students keep getting around 120, 130 in most of the mock tests, the core batch students in the month of April. So I hope majority of you will reach that level, and you should reach that level, right? And one mistake what people do when they are scoring 120, 130 in mock test, so they don't trust themselves, they don't trust their own skills, they keep complaining. I mean, they have this notion that there is something wrong with the paper, that you are scoring good marks. That is what people believe. This self belief sometimes they lack. They tell that I am not so good, so the paper is either easy or it is factual or something, I am able to score good marks. So that is why what they do is that they don't carry forward the same trust, same skills to the real preliminary examination. So in the real preliminary examination, they treat that particular question paper as entirely different, right? So they treat it as it is the real exam, right? So the questions are of totally different nature. Now they require different type of application of skills, strategy, tricks and other things. It is not like that. anything, everything that is working right now, the same skills, the same methodology, the same tricks, any method that is working for you will work in the real test also, right. So this is a very important observation. You have to imbibe, internalize, and you should strongly believe this. Right? So now when you go there, when you start applying new tricks, so it is like for the first time you will be doing it there in the real examination, right. So that is why you tend to get most of the questions wrong in the real exam. So I have seen such kind of students also. So they score 120, 130. See, when you are scoring 120, 130 in our mock test, let us say 100 plus also, there is absolutely no doubt about the amount of knowledge you have achieved, right. So you possess enough knowledge to pass this screening test, the prelim test, right. So you have to trust it. Now, despite possessing that much knowledge in the real prelims, if they are not clearing it, and somebody who used to score 80, 90, if that person is clearing it, right. So there is nothing wrong with the revision, the knowledge you have gained and everything, the practice you have done. It is something wrong with how you approach that paper in those 2 hours, right. So that approaching that 2 hours, how you approach each and every question, how you approach each and every part of the question, like the polity questions, economy, right. So that you need to evolve a kind of belief and a strong method right now itself, and you should carry that forward to the real examination. Any changes you abruptly make in the real exam is going to be counterproductive, right. So don't do this. So I have seen people, if somebody is scoring 120, carrying forward the same mentality, and so there is a strong logic behind this. The tricks you are applying, so basically using logic you are applying, right. There may not be a fixed pattern for that, because you are using every ounce of your knowledge, experience you have gained over the years, including the recent practice and recent knowledge acquisition, everything. So you are trying to apply those logic, right, and that you cannot dispute, you cannot doubt this logic, right. The mental process which goes behind solving a question remains the same. Depending on the nature of the question, the logic might differ, right, but the process behind it is same, right. So that the process should not be changed. What they do is, the simple question they start overthinking, right. So in the real exam, if there is a simple question, you actually subconsciously you don't believe it, that this is a real preliminary examination, this question cannot be this much simplistic, right. So that is why in the most basic questions, most of the people commit mistakes, right. And that is a constant complaint after every prelims I have kept hearing last 8 to 9 years, that the most difficult questions I got them right, sir, but the easy questions, silly questions, I made silly mistakes, right. So you will have those kind of questions here also, right. And it is easy to clear prelims if you get the silly questions right, right. So the so-called difficult questions are mostly knowledge-based questions, right. So not conceptual questions. So the conceptual questions you should compulsorily get right. And now going back to my formula, like I keep recommending you people, so that is why people say, what is the use of coming and listening to the same thing? So he will anyway say do 100 question, 200 question every day, right. I keep repeating the same, no matter people believe it or not. So how many questions you are solving? 100, good. So now I think those who are in the 80s, 90s, I think 150 to 200 questions, you should look at it. See, every time I interact with more number of students, every time I ask about why they failed in prelims, right. So wherever I go, my belief in practice component only gets more and more strengthened, right. So there is a strong correlation, like you can also experiment. So 10 days you spend without practicing question and just revising any book n number of times, right. And on that subject you give a test, right. and same 10 days you spend only practicing questions on that particular subject, like hundreds of thousands of questions, and give the test, right. So maybe we can have a these 2 case studies like that. So they do experiments, right, in big universities. There is what do you call them, sample, not sample, like there are 2 groups, one, what do you call that, one test group or something, control group, and yeah, correct, yeah, there is one control group and there is one maybe non-control group or something. If I do that study, I will be proven right again. I mean, there is a simple logic behind this. Practice makes you perfect, and there is a wrong belief that reading again and again is the practice, right. Reading book again and again is not practice. Should understand it very soon, and after prelims you will again realize this. The more you write, of course for you people it is already proven now, right, because so much of writing you when you look at mains question, there is no fear right now. I mean, I can just write any kind of question, you can just handle it, there is no fear. You don't spend too much time thinking about either interpreting the question or dividing the question. The structure comes to you, right. So the only thing you need to do is add more knowledge, more example, more enrichment. So after prelims, that is the game for you people. So how much now the competition is that it has come to not presentation and other things, it is who writes more examples, who write more specific example, who validates their points more specifically as per the demand of the question. So that is why the people like Shruti Sharma, who could write 10 example in one, even 150 marks question, so was able to score very handsome marks. Good. Now what about centers? Is the window period over? Okay. So what about centers? Where all you put? Huh? Okay. So how many of you put Bangalore? It's okay, don't worry. I have sent many people outside Bangalore. So the competition. So what about you? Where did you put? Assam. You? Trivandrum. You Delhi, no? Yeah. So what about Bangalore? You? Chennai. Bangalore. No? Okay. UP. What about you? Bangalore. Why? You love Bangalore so much? No, don't worry about it. You cannot change, but it's okay. Even in Bangalore also we have had the toppers, but this year I wanted to send maximum number of people outside Bangalore, and I think I have succeeded in that, right? So there will be more ranks for insights this year. No, I have so much confidence in this strategy, right? And those who have put Bangalore, you don't worry, like half the competition is outside now. It is gone out of Bangalore, right? So you can still do well. But having said that, those who have put Bangalore, after mains you have to do little extra effort, right? You have to do bit of extra effort. So extra effort in the sense ki, how do you differentiate your essays and answers? They should be individual test to your answers and essays. So there should be some uniqueness. You should not come across as like for example, if he is writing and you are writing, so there are like 5 people who are writing in Bangalore. Now see your 5 copies, right? So the 5 copies should be totally distinct, right? So how you approach your introduction? The introduction should not be similar. For example, out of 5, if 3 are quoting the same report in the introduction, right? So then that will be problematic. Now if all 5 introductions are different, so then it won't be a problem. Got it? Similarly, how you create parts in the exam, in the body of the answer, the subheading you use, what kind of subheading you are using. So within that, when you are writing a point and when you are giving an example, both the quality of the point and example and also how you are communicating that, right? Some people have mixed paragraph point format approach, some people have totally mechanical approach. So that way we will discuss this after prelims, right? So try to ensure that it is unique to you, right? And for that you should glance through others also. When you are writing mains test here after prelims, ensure that all of you glance with others and you don't copy each other. Sometimes what happens, there is a tendency to copy how the highest scorer is writing. Somebody, if somebody is scoring highest marks, they take the copy and they try to emulate the same approach. So that is fully wrong. So you should find a way to distinguish yours with that highest scorer copy, with your unique stamp, how you do. It can be more diagram, graphs, right? Maybe using color pens or something. You can do all these things. So that comes to presentation part. I think most of it will come to presentation. Content, more or less everyone would have achieved some kind of uniformity. And those who have read some standard textbooks will always have advantage. So that is why this phase of March, April, May is an important phase for you to improve your examples, right? The amount of examples, facts, data that you read right now is tremendous actually, right? For example, every art and culture, like you are going to solve hundreds of questions, hundreds of examples, right? For example, I think I had given the same example. If Buddhism, if you are solving 50 questions, right? So you have so many sets of dimensions and examples for that alone. One single Buddhism question in mains, right? Even if you pick 5 to 6 unique example from here, your answer always stands out. And you have this experience, right? In the real exam, when you are writing, it is difficult to recall examples, right? If there are 10 points, it is very difficult to write 10 different examples. And even those examples which you write are usually the same generic regular examples, right? So you need to move away from that. So try to write quality examples. So I think this prelim preparation, if you somewhere consciously, whenever you are reading something, because you people have that ability now, because you have written so many mains, when you are reading something about prelims, you will be able to map it. Yeah, I had written this test on this particular topic. So this example could be, I could have used or I can use it, right? So this thinking should be constant when you are preparing for the prelims. So that after prelims, having thought about this for 2 to 3 months, so after prelims it becomes natural, when you are writing the answer, so you will be more conscious about bringing quality examples, okay. So this way, be immersed in this whole process, right. So now what about CSAT? So all of you, are you good in quant part? So how many questions you are able to solve in 1 hour in quant? So minimum 30 to 35 questions you should be able to solve in 1 hour, quant part. Have 35 quant target. The first hour you should solve minimum 30 questions. Quant, maths part, okay, including logical reasoning. If you achieve that, CSAT is done, okay. So then the second hour you go for the comprehension. Never go for comprehension in the very beginning. And I think comprehension, that first you have to read question and then you have to read passage. So that approach, of course, you will know it. So, but quant, if you are weak, so be honest with yourself. If you are weak, spend more time on it. Now prelims is something, again, for you people, core batch people, even if it comes at the cost of writing another mains test, reading anything for mains, so go for it. So don't dilute your, be really good in the CSAT paper. So if it means missing a test, it's okay, but never ever be weak in CSAT paper, especially quant part. So how are the questions divided in quant? How many questions each has? Like data interpretation, how many questions are there? Has anybody done the pattern? Huh? Which questions? Number systems are more. Okay, so both last year or this year? So around 9 questions. So can you get all 9 questions right? Number systems. So do we see those kind of questions in other exams, or is it unique to? You see in other exams. In other exams like CAT. So that's what I was telling, CAT and SBI PO exams. So if you can take those quant questions which are bit standard and advanced than the CSAT questions, and if you can solve those questions, so you will easily solve, right? Permutation combination round. So that is always been there, no, those kind of questions. So how are you approaching CSAT paper? See, whether you are already good or weak in CSAT paper, don't take it for granted, right? So how are you approaching on day-to-day basis? How are you doing it? Daily 30 questions you are doing. Like how are you doing it? Like random or? These 30 questions are quant or comprehension? Okay. So you're doing 30 questions. What about full length paper? One you are giving every week. How much you are getting in them? 90 plus. Good. You? No, no. No, here you can finish it. In the real exam, it will be difficult. So don't go with the same habit, right? So this is my personal suggestion because there the passages either will be lengthy, more vague and more subjective. You might not be able to. No, that is why achieve higher accuracy in the quant part, right? For example, if you are solving 35 and if you are getting 30 right, so you would have already got how much marks there? Around 60 marks, right? So all you need to do is another maybe around 5-6 passages, get 5-6 passages right. So I think that approach, and again, so you should go with this approach only if you gain confidence in the quant after solving good amount of questions, right? So there you cannot go and do experiment. So I have seen people either getting stuck in the quant because of lack of preparation or getting stuck in the passages because of the overconfidence, right? So I have seen like those who are really good in the English part, coming from hardcore English medium, having grown up in the English environment, they just go and try to do it, and when they face certain uncertain questions, so it. Hmm. 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 No, you should attend both the questions. The only thing I am telling is that there is more certainty with the quant questions. Hmm. 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 No, that is why I am trying to open your eyes here. In all the prelim test series, run by any institutions, so the passages we cannot exactly set the way UPSC can set, right? So you will easily score. You can solve in 30 minutes also, in 1 hour also. You can get every question right here. When you are solving institution, if you go with the same false confidence to the real exam, then it is difficult to get adjusted in that moment, right? When you face totally new kind of, and again solving previous year questions also builds false confidence, especially for CSAT papers, right? So somewhere you are familiar, and when you solve in a more relaxed environment, you feel similar kind of paper, you can handle it. So that is not the way in the real examination, right? So I think the best strategy is solve more difficult questions in the quant part. You have to gain more accuracy, because I think quant there is only one answer, right? So there is no like A or B kind of confusion. So that is why you should focus on the quant part, and definitely when you have 1 more hour, you can go with passage questions, right? So what about others? How many questions you are doing? Okay. So what about full length paper? I heard our CSAT step up paper was good, CSAT, right? So what we have done is that we have bought passages from the Oxford University Press, right? So they are the standard English passages. Okay, so it is not something created by our content creators. So that is why the paper can be like more or less, you can feel to the standard of UPSC, right? So I think keep giving those kind of full length tests at a regular interval. Just clear prelims, right? Most of you will reach interview, 100%, it is guaranteed. Second issue will be optional, and I hope you have gained more confidence in optional. Some of you had said you didn't complete optional, no? Have you completed now? So what about others? You have read and created notes. That is enough. What about you? You are okay. Class notes, okay. Yours. So what about you? Your optional is PSI. You can do it after prelims. Anyway, polity again you are reading, no? Part of prelims anyways. So yours? Done. Okay. Good. So what about you two? Your core batch? Achha, fine. So what about your optional? It is done. You two girls. Yeah. So you completed optional. 60%. Okay. Which optional? Okay. What about you? Which optional? Anthro. Okay. Good. So yours is done. Fine. Like, at least you have completed the optional and your notes ready, right? That much is enough. Because immediately after prelims, like 15-20 days, you intensively revise, so that when you enroll for a test series, the time to read for test series is less, and you can focus more on the GS part. Now, you should not excessively focus on optional after prelims. As you know, the scores are coming down. There is no kind of extra advantage in optional now, that you cannot say that if you spend more time on optional, you are going to score 320, 330. It is not like that. So being happy with 270, 280 itself is enough now for optional. So if you have achieved that much competency, I think that is fine. So keeping ready notes and everything, that itself is fine. Good. So how is your confidence for 23 exam? Is it? Do you feel it is? It's building up. Good. It is increasing. Very good. Okay. No. So basically, how you are going to judge in these performances that your ability to make right guesses. Are you able to? Are you getting good at intelligent guessing, right? So that should determine your progress, not the marks, because some test will have more number of factual questions. So if you know that there are more factual questions, don't worry about your low score, right? But is your intelligent guessing, so that skill, is it working in most of the questions or most of the test? So if it is solid, I think you should feel confident, and as I said in the very beginning, you should carry forward the same strategy to the real exam. So at any cost, you don't become a new person in the real prelims. You build up so much importance to that prelims hype, and you make that day very special. So what happens? You tend to become more conscious on that day, and you try to be extra cautious the way you approach every question. So then things go wrong. It should be like any other day, normal. One day before prelims, we will do that session. The same dialogue. It is another day. You just walk in. Like continuation of another mock test of insights or whatever test you are giving. So it should be that approach. You should keep it very normal affair. You're taking deep breath. Know itself. Do you get scared about prelims? Does it haunt you now and then? Always. Okay. So because of last year failure or before that is the reason. No, believe this time you should have stronger belief than your previous attempts. The way you people have written hundreds of, has it reached thousands or like hundreds of answers? Yeah. That will also contribute to your prelims marks in the real exam, real prelims, especially those questions with 4 or 5 multiple options. So all the mains answer rating will definitely come to use. You will actually see that. So feel confident in the way you have prepared and approached this year examination, right? So don't keep thinking about the last year. The last year your skills were lower than this year. Your knowledge was not as good as this year, right? The practice was not as good as this year. The way you have acclimatized or accustomed to this process of giving test regularly was not as intense as this year. So obviously you are in a far better position than your last year, right? So just forget about that. You have become a better individual, better prepared individual to handle examination this year. So you should derive your confidence looking at whatever you have done, right? You should blindly trust it. And if you keep doubting, yourself because of some past experience, whatever amount of work you have done will never everything you have done. So I don't know if it is a psychology concept. I see this kind of process happening. Anybody with psychology, optional or read psychology? There may be a. Do you say anything in the psychology? Whatever I said. They dominate.
In exam hall, our subconscious will react. So that is the main. So if we store anything in subconscious, that comes active in exam hall,
then it will
be a problem.
It will be a problem. So you're like in subconscious, the fear is there. So these kind of negative emotions and other things. So if you keep giving importance and they become dominant, then
actually any fear is there or any incidents are there, actually they goes down to unconscious. And it is better we don't remember.
Correct. So not to remember them, of course, you need to be very busy with the present moment, right? So in the present, keep yourself very busy. That is why there is so much to do, right? There is no limit to what actually you can do, the amount of practice you can do, right? Just keep doing, keep yourself busy. And I am so confident, if you clear prelims, all of you will nail mains, right? And just you have to balance the optional part, 250 plus in optional, right? And all of you are going to get easily around, 550 to 600 in GS plus essay papers. So that will be your, average score around 550 to 600 from 4 GS plus essay papers, plus 250, 260, 270 in your optional. So we'll easily get you somewhere between 825 to 875 marks. So which is something, top 100 people have scored. So last 2 years. So that much is easily achievable. Okay. So any doubts? No doubts. Good. So prelim centers, so Bangalore only, right? Good. So you still have so much of time actually. Don't you feel sometimes you have so much time actually? Time is flying. No, I think if there is a prelims test tomorrow, most of you can actually crack it. So I believe actually, see, just a screening test, the same paper, if it is disguised as another mock test, if I get UPSC paper and because of some link or insider info, right, and then give it as a mock test, step up test, right. So most of you will score 90 plus only, right, the same paper. And if we tell, this is real, preliminary exam paper and the same paper, in the real prelims, you will tend to score low marks. Depending on how your mind is that day, how much you have slept before the test. So all these factors, they will decide. So it is always about how you approach the problem, how you face the situation, the amount of confidence, the amount of comfort you have in facing the challenge. So these actually decide the outcome. So otherwise, when it comes to preparedness, right, so knowledge wise, I am 100% confident you are already ready to, crack prelims, and you are just adding up, more and more amount of knowledge. So just let it be systematic, let it be, proper, so that you can just, apply the same thing in mains. Let it not be very random, the way you are preparing for prelims. So when is the next step of test? Any idea? No. Coming Sunday it is there. So all of you give it, no? And some people will have fear of giving this test because they have fear of scoring low marks. They try to stay away from these kind of open tests or mock test. So don't do that mistake. The more you expose, the more you get used to these kind of situations, the more comfortable you become, in handling these kind of papers. So if somebody had avoided yourself, giving such paper because of fear, so don't do that. So both CSAT and GS paper, just go and give it. I think we have done 2 GS papers, right? Till 3. How many have you given all 3? Only 2, 3, 4. Why? Others? I think those tests are still available, no? In the portal at least. Give them. So is there any problem with the paper itself, or it doesn't matter? I mean, now earlier, before 2018, there used to be certain certainty. You could choose only one institution paper and tell, something like that. Now, so our questions are not going to be repeated. No institutions papers are going to be repeated, right? So earlier we used to actually do it, like 50, 60 questions, related to something like this. We have stopped doing that, right? So the thing is, it's only for practice. It's only for, making yourself familiar with as many dimensions, as many subparts, subtopics of, whatever you are reading. So that is the purpose of giving these marks, right? And I think this randomness also helps. Giving, sometimes just randomly picking a test of another test series center, institution, giving it. So I think will give you more confidence. Right. What else? So otherwise everything is good. So I am enjoying this interview process every day. Doing these mock tests. So I have done at least 450 plus mocks so far, for 450 plus individuals. Maybe the number of mocks may be around 600 plus. So far 450 plus those who are giving interview this year have given mock test. And many more are there because this year, it is staggered. The interview started in January 30, it is going to end in around May 20. Right. So only 3 boards are taking mocks. In a day, only 30 to 40 candidates are being interviewed in a day. Earlier it used to be around 70 to 80 candidates. And again the result will be out 3-4 days before prelims this year also. So maybe you will come to know your marks 1 day before your prelims, the last year marks, right? So strategically they are doing this. One thinking may be those who have given this attempt, maybe it's a way of discouraging them to give again one more attempt this year. So very few people in a position to give attempt when your result is out, out of these 2,500 odd people, right? Very few people will be in a position. So and then when they give marks 1 or 2 days before, your prelims, that might further discourage some people. Forest, I think if the result is out before prelims, both the forest and civil, I think you will get. That will be delayed, I think, this time, again, like last year. So after prelims, they got to know the marks, those who had applied for forest service. On the website, no? I think that they will release, yes. That they will release, again, we cannot do anything about it. Do as many papers as possible. Full length, at least my suggestion is minimum 50 full length papers, right? So 5,000 to 6,000 questions from full length papers, right? Subject wise, all subjects combined at least 10 to 12,000 questions. For example, polity, economy and environment combined 5,000 questions. So polity 2,000, economy, these are minimum 2,000 questions. Polity, economy especially, and environment and science and tech, geography maybe around 1,000 questions each. Modern history, art and culture around 500 to 600 questions in those areas. So I think you need to see that the purpose is to know as many, familiarize. So at least you should have seen them before going to exam. The different names in modern history, the different books names, whatever it is. If there is a factual question, at least if you had seen it once or twice, so elimination can become bit easy there, right? Something will tell you, like the intuition part will tell you, somewhere I have seen it. So at least you will have one reason to trust your intuition. And if you have never seen that kind of thing, and in a single textbook you can never see those many things, right? So whenever a question setter is setting the question, so we extrapolate. So if, for example, underground revolutionaries, if there is two names of women are given, we will see if there were more number of women who are also part of such kind of underground revolution, whether it was during Quit India or later. So we would have referred another standard book, right, and given it as an option. So that is the advantage you will get when you solve so many questions, right? So it is fully useless to revise only one textbook, so many times and directly going to exam. Revision of multiple times plus practice is the best way forward. Okay. Good. Regarding current affair like quiz compilation, have you started with quiz compilation? How many months you have done? So we post 20 questions every day, right? So in a month you have 500 questions. In a month you have 500 current affair questions. So that is more than any current affair magazine, right? So doing these 500 questions of a month. So my suggestion is January 22 to present. So all the quiz compilations. So do.
Compilation will have only 100 to 150. Daily quiz will have some 50 to 20.
No, we have 3 different compilations. No, compilation for QUED, compilation for RTM. So you have to take 3 different compilations. So each compilation will have, as you said, RTM will have more questions. Around 250 questions it will have, I think. This QUED and daily current affair quiz will have around 120 questions. And again, we have segregated them as subject wise, and also we give them only separate questions also. There are 2 compilations. Only question compilation and then there is question and answer compilation. You can take the question compilation, right? If you have read current affairs, you can check your knowledge of current affairs through those questions. So for current affairs, I think rely on the quiz compilations. Now don't go with any revision modules or hours or other institutions. So it is, I think, more useless to read these bulky documents. Rather, quiz will be more productive.
So there are multiple compilations. One is current affairs and RTM.
That's what 3. Give first preference to RTM. So 10 questions, right? Second, QUED. So all 3 are important, but I have seen many people doing just RTM and scoring good marks in the prelims current affairs component. So RTM should be your first preference. Like when you are trying to solve, first finish them. When you have enough time, then go with the QUED, like 5 questions from the editorials, right? So that is important. So other 5 questions would have been already covered in RTM, the another daily current affair quiz.
So with respect to options, before what happened is like we compromise so much on options. Subconsciously.
No, don't worry. So 3.5 months time will be there. So at that time, see, as I told you, to score 250, 260, whatever you have to do, that much only you need to do. Which optional? So don't worry. I mean, 5.5 years you have read so much. Medical science. So for medical science, just blindly go with solving as many question papers. Last 10 years compulsorily solve. I think 60% same questions I have seen that.
It's almost
Same questions get repeated. So 10 years question if you do, so the paper which you are getting is 60% leaked it is. So most of the optional papers are leaked papers. You do last 10-15 year papers, majority optional papers are already leaked. The same question in a different format, especially in Kannada literature, people have seen that, there is one question, Bharatesha Vaibhava Yoga Bhoga, something like that. And then there is something Kanakadasa. So out of 10 years, at least 8 to 9 years, the same question would have been there. Right? So again, they are making some 20-30% more applied and more current affair oriented in some even so-called static optionals, but 60-70% is already like there was this my wife's cousin Dan Chandra, he got all India rank 47 in the Nandini batch. So what he did was he had geography optional. In first attempt he didn't clear prelims. So when he was applying for the second attempt, I told him to change his optional. So he asked me question like which optional. I said Kannada literature is ruling now, so you go with literature. So he was born and brought up in pure English medium. Right? He said my handwriting is decent, but I haven't read a single textbook of Kannada so far. Right? So but can I manage? I told him the same dialogue. Right? It's a leaked paper. You do 10-year papers, so you will be able to get some decent marks. So he did that. After prelims, he did two things. So he solved 10-year papers. Second, he copied all Nandini's answers. I mean, copied in the sense, so he used to read what Nandini used to write. So all the test series she was writing, he used to take her book and just read it, maybe to see to what extent he could write. So he put like hardly 2 months effort into the optional, right? So he was a very smart guy, one of the smartest I have seen. So he ended up with I think 262 marks, right? So Nandini got to 345, I think around nearly 350 marks in Kannada literature. He got rank 47. If he had got 350, his rank would have been first that year. Seriously. So there was a 90 marks, nearly 90 mark difference. But nonetheless, the point here is that he was still able to crack it, he was in top 50. So he got 601 with GS plus essay. So whereas Nandini was 600, right? So if he had scored similar marks as Nandini, his rank would have been the first rank that year. But if he had made a right decision maybe long ago, 1 year ago, and done really good preparation. So now what I am trying to convey is that you don't have to aim for 300, 320, I mean the present scheme of things, right? So because you already have a knowledge, it is not like totally a new subject, right? So by solving 10-year papers and doing revision of those missed out topics in these 10 years, you can aim for 250, 260 marks. So be happy with that much marks, right? So now GS you have gained some advantage, right? So try to build on that. So essay aim for 140 plus. Similarly GS 1, GS 3, I mean GS 2, 120 plus is doable in GS 1 and 2. So GS 3 90 to 100 is a very good score nowadays, right? So GS 4 again 120 plus people have scored. So there you have to gain advantage. So try to compensate for loss of 2013 optional here in GS and essay papers. The test series, no. Test series if you are scoring like say 115, 120, 125. Like what I have seen is that the PSIR sociology. So if they are scoring around 120 range, so it means they are in the easily 250, 260. So in optional test series, people usually give low marks, right? So I think that should be your benchmark, and in the optionals like you are changed, right? Mathematics only, right? So then you should know if you are correcting, I mean if you are getting 400 plus correct solutions, so you are sure shot 250, 260 plus. So in any test paper, try to get 400 plus correct solutions. Right. So the scaling is done. I don't know what is the exact formula, what statistical tool model they are using, but it is very difficult to. Some people I have heard, mathematics they tell, I have done 450, 460 correct, and they are also scoring around 290, 280, and they expect 320, 330. Yeah, correct. But the score is 280. No, they are restricting. No, in every optional you see one or two individuals above 300 now. Earlier it used to be more numbers. So they are slowly creating level playing field. So the scores are now concentrated between 250 to 290. So all the topper scores from rank 1 to the last rank. So that is where the game is, So that is why I am telling you, don't worry. I mean, don't spend too much time on optional. Out of fear, don't spend the entire time, after prelims on optional. Immediately, first 20-25 days, last 10-year papers, you memorize. Any optional, every optional, right? Memorize, as you have said already, you have notes for all the topic. So those questions which are repeated last 10 years, literally memorize. Try to further add some more example, more case studies, more diagrams, depending on your optional, and try to be perfect with them. Right? When you go to exam, like you will just walk out with 250 marks. Keep memorizing, keep repeating the same thing again and again. So at least you have made sure that some minimum marks is guaranteed for you, right? So it's all about how you approach. Actually, people get carried away. Some people go to extreme. They go to coaching, I mean special crash course, guidance to Delhi just for optional when they have cleared prelims, right? So that is totally useless strategy. I mean foolish strategy. So if you understand the trend of the exam, it is easy to crack the examination, right? You should know the pulse. You should how the exam is evolving. What is the trend. So according to you have to adapt, right? And then approach the exam. The last year what worked will not work this year again. And I have seen that, for example, like as you have written mains last year, the same notes won't work this year. Whether it is optional or GS, you must update your notes. So even if you have written as part of core batch so many answers, so many, your optional notes, after prelims you have to compulsorily again update them. The reason is every year, in the competition, like when people are writing mains around 12,000 people, so among them around 6 to 7,000 maybe the old ones, those are written previously multiple times, and there are few 1 or 2,000 people come as a totally fresh candidates with totally fresh approach, fresh way of writing, fresh way of bringing content. So it is in relation to this freshness which is coming to competition that the rest of the competition is assessed nowadays, right? So I am seeing more number of people who used to, who have already got ranks failing in more numbers in their next attempt, are not improving their ranks, right? So that phenomenon is happening last 2 to 3 years in more numbers. So there is no guarantee that if you have written mains or already got rank last year, you are going to replicate the same this year. So what they do, they just read the same option because they already have the notes. They just read the same thing and try to write the same way as they had done. And you might have seen people scoring 280, 290 in previous attempt, the scores getting lower in next attempt in optional papers, right? The reason is just you cannot repeat the same thing, right? So constantly keep updating. So GS prelims is an opportunity to update. Immediately after prelims, update your optional notes. Good. Anything else? So how does it feel, to be part of this competition, daily doing the same thing? Interesting. Good. Huh? You are improving day by day. So for me that gives more happiness when you say that you are able to see progress. So that is the intention of the program, right? I mean, in the beginning that is what I have told. If you remember, it will happen in the course of the time. It will naturally happen. The number of questions you are writing will increase. The quality will increase. Again, further after prelims, you will see further boost. So if people are struggling to complete paper, in the beginning, you would be writing 16 to 18 answers. Again, you cannot write full length, complete paper immediately after prelims. There will be a lag period. Some 20 to 30 days, it will take time. But if most people achieve that 1 or 2 weeks before actual mains, you would have achieved it at least 1.5 months before mains itself, completing the paper, right? So that largely determines, and if you update the knowledge, so then sure shot 850 plus. You cannot keep repeating the same thing. I mean, don't get carried away with the marks here also. Even if you score 110, 120, try to find a way to further, improve your content. So till last minute, you need to keep updating your content. So after mains, of course, so it will be another interesting phase, right? And I usually start mocks immediately, and then so out of 10 people, 3 to 4 people usually clear. So the one with whom I take chances, not those people who take chances thinking that they are going to clear, right? But again, the race, what I'm 8 to 9 years in this journey, what I'm seeing is that those who stick with the process, let us say you have given mains last time, and then you started updating yourself and writing mains again, there is 99% probability you are going to crack mains this time. And let us assume you have written mains last time, unnecessarily you took a break of 3-4 months thinking that you didn't do well, and then you didn't do either you didn't update or practice enough. There is a chance that you are not going to crack again. So it depends how quickly you have updated, practiced, and stuck with the process. So the more you are with the process, continuously evolving, so in 2-3 attempts, most of them get through. And the nature of competition is like that, when 100 people start, in the end you will have like 10 people left. And these 10 people have the highest chances of cracking this examination. It looks so simple, and it always comes to the question why people are not persistent, why people are not strong enough, tough enough to hold themselves together and do what it takes to crack this. And some people give up in between and then they come after like 2 to 3 years again, because this is always there within them, to crack it. Chances are very less, slim in those cases also. You have to be with it in the process. So don't give up. You may not clear, but don't give up. Just keep updating. And in the interview, number of attempts and all doesn't matter. So all that matters is the person sitting in front of me, how well they are able to engage me, intellectual. So that is what matters. With some candidates, time just flies. Out of 100, less than 3 people. Again, such kind of candidates, less than 3%, with whom we don't look at the clock, right? With whom we feel like, let us have conversation, another half an hour or something like that. So, and then most of them we struggle, like how to engage them, how to, like we have to keep inventing questions for them. So that is when in most of the interviews you will see current affair questions, random factual questions thrown at them, because they are easy to ask, right? You think of economy, there you get like 10 different current affair questions related to economy, and then you can just ask them a factual question, right? And you will be feeling, let it be over very soon. So of course after your mains we will discuss and make sure that you are in that 3%. Did anybody read any extra book? So there was no time for all these things. It's okay, after prelims you will have time. Now if the interviews are held the way they are being held now, you can easily complete around 10 books if you start immediately after mains. So what else? Good, all good. Hmm. Hmm. See, self-help books you know, people read only for momentary, to gain momentary confidence. Most of them don't adapt. If you are reading more than one self-help book, that means, right, you're not actually even.
I feel like more we have to change ourselves. Like I see many things going in wrong. And when we read book, we actually read it. If we are working hard or we are doing it, we can relate it. Okay, this way I have to take this step. So many things like solution we get in those. Whatever.
Stick to one book. No, one book that applies to your personality.
One book doesn't. I like the book also add some good value. Like that will add some extra value to my my intellectual thing. That will also add.
No, if it is adding, definitely read them. The thing is, in the real interview, they're not going to ask questions about, you know, about these kind of stuff, like, you know, how do you stop overthinking? The panel will never ask a question that, you know, do you procrastinate?
Sir, but I am not reading as a only as an interview thing, but as a whole character. If I change in that level, then those things like IR some book is there. Those things are easy to catch, very easy to catch.
See, if that is helping, definitely go with that. I'm not against those books. The thing is, some people just keep reading books, you know, without adopting, without inculcating, you know, the lessons they have learned. So it doesn't serve any purpose. Of course, like for example, there is a book, Atomic Habits. I haven't read, I have heard that it has really helped many people. So to try to, you know, break tasks into small things and, you know, how they can make them as habit. So if you make reading non-fiction as a habit, learning from that book, how you can make, you know, reading extra books your hobby or habit. So definitely that book has served its purpose, right? So it is only that, are you going to adapt? Are you going to use it? So then you can be more productive, more efficient. So there is no argument about it, right? It is only that making it a hobby itself, reading self-help books, that is wrong. So when people put reading self-help books, I ask them to change it. You're using it as a hobby. How many books you will read? Right. So these books, other books I was talking about, they are the talking points. So we can talk so much about, like if you read say like 3-4 books on democracy. So on so many dimensions of democracy, we can have talk. If I ask a random question, do you see democracy coming under threat nowadays? Not just in India, rest of the world, right? So if you read good amount of books, your perspectives will be different. If you read only newspaper or, you know, what is going on in the news, so your opinion will be same as the general opinion that is there in the general public, right? You are not bringing any new argument here, new perspective. So that is the reason I tell, you know, you should read. So all the best. So study well, clear prelims. You will enjoy the mains phase. The mains phase is something, you know, free of all these prelims fears. Nothing, like morning to evening, just, you know, read, write. No fear of like failing. You know, there is so many papers. No, you are not thinking about failing in one paper. So, so that so that fear of failure doesn't exist there, because there are so many papers. So you are confused like which paper to fail. So we'll be reading and writing about all the paper, trying to balance, right? So the mind will be more calmer, more relaxed than it is right now. These are all small insights, you know. Okay, so all the best. Thank you.